Hey you, welcome to the I Feel You podcast presented by Project Feel. I am your host, Edie Wyse, and this is season 2. As most of you may know, we do 2 versions of this podcast. There's audio, so you find that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, everywhere podcasts are found. And we also have very special visual versions on our YouTube. If you enjoy this content, please consider subscribing to our Patreon. You get some pretty cool perks, such as getting these episodes 2 weeks early. So, again, thank you so much for watching, and enjoy the episode. What's up? How are you?
Yeah, chilling.
Chilling?
Trying to look at you and also like
Yeah, if you want, you can like kind of angle it to make it easier.
Yeah, true.
I want to make sure that we're able to look into each other's eyes. Yeah. How you feeling, man?
Good.
Yeah?
Feeling good today,
Good?
yeah.
You are the first episode
I know,
of
I'm
season
honored.
2.
I'm honored.
Isn't that nuts, man? It's
I'm
crazy.
excited.
You came on for a little bit on our season finale, and we actually mentioned there that I wanted you to be on the actual show, and here we are,
Yeah,
man.
here we are, doing it up.
Doing it, man. It's awesome. Thank you for being here. I really do appreciate it. For those of you who don't know, this is Sam Kaplan, a.k.a. Leifer. This is the man, the myth, the legend, the guy we've been in love with since we met him. His music is incredible. You just released a single entitled Vacancy,
Yes, sir.
which is a song that I had the pleasure of seeing first
Yeah, that's true.
on this beautiful road trip that maybe one day you guys will be able to see.
The origin story.
The origin story, man. Tell us a little bit about Vacancy and how it came along.
Yeah. Vacancy was one of those songs that just kind of rolled out, flowed out within kind of an hour. And it was, I was with Project Feel. I was rocking with y'all, and we were up in Acadia, Maine.
Yeah, shout out to Acadia.
Living in a little RV with 13 people, which
Sick.
was dope creative vibes. A lot of energy going around,
Yeah, a ton.
of all sorts. And yeah, I was just having a great time and coming to all these self-discoveries and stuff. But it was weird because, Jackie, my partner, was not with us. And it's that and the song is all about wanting to share the best moments in life with the person who you're in it with,
Yep.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, man.
I remember that song because it was when you said that you wrote it that quickly, it was awesome because you were struggling with the song before that.
Yeah,
and
true.
It was not clicking, something wasn't there.
Yeah.
And you couldn't figure it out, and then to see you just pull through with a completely different track.
Yeah.
Completely different song. I was like, that's what it's about, man. Being willing to shed what you were trying to do, and being open to something completely new coming into your brain space, your mind,
Yeah, totally.
I attribute that to your talent in songwriting too, because you're a great songwriter. So yeah,
Yeah, that other song that I was trying to write that I was working really hard on.
Yeah.
Eventually came out. Eventually, not released, but I eventually finished it, and it also in its own right is I played it at my brother's wedding.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, for him and his wife, and it was its own special thing.
That's
but
beautiful.
It was much more a labor of love, and Vacancy was really just needed to come out. It was one of those things. It was and it's it's rare that you kind of have a moment where for me, when that happens is when I'm able to access a flow state and not be judgmental of what's coming out and just follow it along.
Yeah.
And it's so rare for that to happen when I'm in a not at all intoxicated in any way state.
I feel that, man.
Which is because I'm always judging myself, unless I'm intoxicated. But when I'm intoxicated, I don't have
it just comes out,
chops
dude.
or whatever to record it well. So it was just a perfect meshing moment,
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
How were you introduced to songwriting in general? What was the first thing that happened, or where was it?
I wrote poetry a lot. I was just a super angsty kid, and it's funny. I used to write all my music starting with the lyrics, and then which I'm making a point of going back to, but I haven't done in a while.
Yeah.
And yeah, I wrote poetry for a long time, and then I started playing guitar. Well, I played a bunch of instruments. I played like flute and piano were my first instruments,
what?
when I was mad young. Yeah, flute. That's I was so like good at. But
I just want to see you smacking a flute.
Dude, it's been a while, but I wanted to. I remember I was taking classical lessons, and then I quit those, and I thought I was being so rebellious because I was playing like jazz flute.
It's so good.
It was like 10, but
That's awesome.
I jumped from instrument to instrument for a while, and then I just came back around to guitar, and I just kind of developed the chops to actually write music, and so I started kind of putting melodies to the poetry that I had written. That was how it started. Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
That's actually very similar. I got into writing for hip hop and rap in a very similar way.
Yeah.
Because it's so one to one. You can kind of take any poetry and you can theoretically put music on it, and it can be anything you want it to be.
Yeah, totally.
So it's really cool to hear that. I wonder if they hear that helicopter.
Yeah, true.
It's so loud. Dude, the amount of helicopters that fly through this neighborhood, I actually don't, and they fly so low.
It's the heli elites looking down.
Have you ever been
us.
in a helicopter?
Once, yeah. Once when I was in Hawaii.
That sounds terrifying.
It was scary, but it was fucking sick, dude. It was we did this tour of the waterfalls and volcanoes.
I actually can't imagine what that was like. Anyway, tangent, whatever. Yeah, so the poetry one to one, I felt that because I started writing and I was like, these words feel kind of natural to me. It feels like it feels like what I'm writing doesn't really feel like anything I've seen before. It feels original, sounds original. I feel like it's from my perspective. It feels strong. So I was like, let me just let me keep writing, and then music kind of comes naturally in those moments.
Yeah.
I listen to music a lot, and when I would be writing, I feel like I would just listen to instrumentals, and it just always kind of meshed. And it was like, oh, I wish this was like a thing.
And that helps you find that flow state where you're like, all right. Yeah, I feel like for me, I'm really trying now to start going back to writing with lyrics first, because something I've realized about my writing since I started going kind of music first more is that it kind of locks me in expressively. Where if I'm writing free form, kind of, and I'm not locked into a rhyme scheme or a rhythmic pattern or something like that, I can say exactly what I want to say and then fit it to the music, so the music fits that, as opposed to being oh, this is groovy, now let me fit what I want to say into.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a different way to go about the whole process, which I love talking to you about this, because I feel like you have some really good insight because you've been doing it for a while. And one thing that I feel like we might get these questions later too, because I feel like these are some of the most basic questions that people ask all the time. It's like, how do you write, or when you make music, what comes first? It's like, well, it's never one thing. It just kind of comes to you, and I feel like the process has to be it kind of has to be different every time, because then it's not fresh if it isn't. If it's the same process over, which the industry has kind of perfected. They know the process. They can kind of churn out really big hits in the same way every single time. So it does work at some capacity. But if you're trying to be creative, if you're trying to be honest with your creativity, it's just always different.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like I have processes to get me out of a jam or writer's block or something like that. But yeah, it's a lot of the best music that I write is not intentional, really. Yeah. It's just I'm not necessarily. I find when I'm trying to write a song that I'm too. I've written a lot of songs. I've written I've released only so many songs, but I've written hundreds and hundreds of songs in all different formats and stuff. And it's at the point where I always want my shit to be better than it was before.
Oh yeah, of course.
So if I'm intentionally writing, a lot of the time it's hard to like I said, get into that flow state and not be super self-critical. A lot of the time when I'm just flowing or freestyling or jamming or doing, that's when ideas come out and I'm oh, or an idea that I'll have recorded years ago, I'll look back at and I'll have a totally new perspective on it and be yeah, I'm in this now.
It's actually sick.
But when I'm okay, let me write something, sometimes I'm just get all clogged up and I have to do techniques I'll do.
It does come to you, I feel like I went on I took the train this morning to get to where I had to go, and I was just listening to music, and then all of a sudden it was like I came up with like a quick like pattern. It was like a cadence and a rhyme scheme, and I was like, ooh, that sounds cool. Let me put words to it. And then it just kind of developed. And I didn't go on the train thinking like I'm going to write when I'm on the train today.
Yeah.
I rarely ever do what I set out to do. So like if I'm like I'm going to go home and write for 3 hours, I probably won't do that.
Right.
It just kind of comes to you, which, you know, is annoying sometimes, but when it does come in, it comes in strong, you know?
One thing I'm jealous of with you is like I feel like for me when I'm the most effective is when I have someone to like bounce ideas off of and like do my stuff with, but particularly someone I really vibe with musically, which is rare. And I feel like
hard to find.
You and Franco are like in the crib together. Always kind of like bounce. Like I know there are two people who I wrote together with when I was like 15, and they live. One of them lives in Montreal. One of them lives in California.
Okay.
And so it's hard now to write with them. But those guys are like still like, you know, Matt Azen and Leo Dolan. Those two guys, shout out to them. are like I vibe with them, and I wish I had more time to write with them. And you know, I've found like my buddy Carter Sanders, who produces all my music. We definitely have a nice collaborative energy, but it's like I'll write the song and then I'll come to him and like we'll talk about like the soundscape, like how I should like sing it, and also he's like, you know, one of these guys who like I know music theory,
of course,
but I don't necessarily like actively think about it a ton. So like he'll polish up the song. He'll be like, no, this voice leading will sound a little better if it's a dominant chord, not like a this or whatever, you know.
It's that kind of stuff, man.
Yeah, that kind of stuff, or like, or just like, oh, I think this bridge, you know. So we vibe in that way, but it's not like the same from scratch thing. Yeah.
Like from the moment. Like getting together with someone and just like being able to spontaneously create. That's very rare.
It's hard for it to not feel forced, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I feel like Franco and Brandon have that. Glooms and Franco, they both, every time I see them go in there, they just, their sound, they mesh so well. And I think that's what it's about is, you know, a lot of the people that we know now are still trying to find their sound. Like I know I'm still trying to find my sound specifically. I don't know exactly what it is. So when I go to work with someone, it's hard to find that mesh because it's like, well, I don't know. I barely know what I'm offering you right now. It's like if you gave me a track and you think it sounds like me, I don't know if that would actually sound like me. I have no idea of what I should put to the table. So it's really early on. It's just really hard to find that. But if you, what is a space that you go to frequently? Like, what's your favorite place to actually write music or to do anything?
I mean, this is like kind of vague, but like outdoors. Something I realized over the past like year and a half.
Yeah.
Or like during the pandemic, I realized it actually. So maybe like even more is that like when I'm out. So like the more I've like produced music and stuff, the more my ears have become attuned to the spaces that I'm in, hearing the echoes, hearing the bass, hearing whatever in whatever room I'm in.
Of course, yeah.
And I realized that like even though I hear all that stuff indoors, it's like you have so much fodder for like so much to play off of when you're outdoors. Like when you step outside and you hear the birds chirping, you hear the leaves blowing, you hear just like I just hear rhythm. I like naturally will hear rhythm, and that like for me is like really, like, you know,
it's incredible.
Yeah, that provides a lot of creative energy for me, and also a lot of like smells, just like my senses, like opening up to my senses.
It's a beautiful thing. Yeah, I just every morning, and even now you can kind of hear them, but birds chirp wild over here. I don't know if it's the same where you are, but man, they're loud and they're proud, dude. Like those birds are crazy, and it's nonstop too for like a while, and it's like that. It's a nice sound because it's not intrusive, but it's in the background. But when you listen to it, it is actually pretty beautiful. Like it's really nice to listen to, and it's kind of peaceful in a way. Totally. So and especially with the city, man, it's like constant noise, like uninterrupted, constant. And you can find some parks in some areas where like it's not as bad, but man, or not bad actually. It's great. It's a great thing. Like the sound is a really beautiful thing, where it's not as loud, I guess is what I meant to say. But yeah, I feel that. Is it like the cityscape outside, or is it like also when you're hiking, or when you're like, is it the mountains? Like, what is the best outdoors to you? Is it just in general?
I think actually, like, when there's like, when it's more subtle. So like, like more scenic and stuff. I mean, in the city, it's great too. The thing is like I come from like a classical background, you know, like, and like people think of like, a lot of people think of classical music as like kind of all one genre, but it's like really a huge line of them. And like, if you start with like true classical music, and like if you're talking about like Mozart and stuff, things are very like even and cyclical. Phrases are like two, you know, two measures or whatever, and there's like good resolution and it's clear and it's concrete and stuff. As you get later, as you get into like more modern composers and stuff, like rhythm becomes a little less of a thing, and it becomes more like time. So you'll just like have a like 3/4 bar, a 4/4 bar, a bar, or whatever. And like I love, you know, pop music as much as I love a lot of other genres, and I play off it in a lot of ways. But something that I like to break free of is like I was saying before, when I start with music, this like box that I'm like fitting things into. And when I'm outside and like you know, the sounds indoors, like the air conditioner or whatever, things like that are like very cyclical. When I'm outside, things are sporadic. And it's like, boom, bah, bah, like hits, like an Anderson .Paak song or something. And I love that, and I love like finding them. I like collecting them. So like when I'm in nature, like when I'm in the city and stuff, it's like there's a lot of opportunity for that. But it's like I can't follow them long enough to like, you know, pin them down. Like it's like there's this comes,
there's a lot
to
latch onto. There's not a lot to latch onto. That's great. I find myself whenever I'm really in like in a zone or inspired, you know, I find myself finding those things pretty often. I remember one time I was walking, and it was like, you know, my favorite thing to see in the city, because it's so like New York in the movies and stuff like that, is like when there's like the sewer thing, and it's just smoke rising out of it like nonstop.
What is that?
Dude, I have no idea. It's odorless. It's just smoke coming out of the floor. It doesn't make any sense, but it's so New York. It's hilarious. And I just remember one time it was that, but it was like hissing. And I remember walking past it, and I had my AirPods, my poor AirPods, I lost them. But I had the AirPods Pro, and they have like the transparency mode. So you can actually hear better with those on.
Right.
And I remember walking past it, and the hiss, it was like music, because the headphones it was the headphones feeding me the noise that was outside. Right, so it was kind of like it was a song playing. And I think I had a track, like some kind of lo-fi beat playing, and I was passing by it, and the hissing was just to hear it pass was so beautiful. And I was like, oh my God. I actually recorded it on my phone, just walking by that noise.
Yeah, that's dope. You got to put it in a song.
Yeah, I know. I want to. I don't even know where it's in my voice memo somewhere deep, deep, deep. Do you use voice memos on the phone? Do you record stuff all the time?
But I mainly use videos.
Do you ever
I'll record straight, like I have thousands of videos on my phone of just like me and like at like 2 a.m. like disheveled as fuck.
Do you have I don't, like, you can't label videos, but like for my voice memos, every time I do it, it's just addresses. It's never a label. So now if I were to try to go through it, God, the things I would find. Also, I have like a bunch of like 3-hour conversations with like Joe and Franco, or like friends and stuff, Anthony and Christine, like old conversations. And then I have like random like improv musical sessions where like we do like actual musicals, like we play characters and we play Franco's like plays the piano or whatever, like the freestyle Love Superman type thing. Exactly, but it's always like the worst kind of stuff, like we always say the worst things, so I feel like I can never use those things. But yeah, it's such an inspiring place to be, outdoors in general. I connect to that. And you were talking about also pop music and like that kind of like rigid structure to that pop sometimes has. What do you think? Is it like, do you think it's a demand that the industry has, or do you think that's a demand that like the people have? Like, do you think, because I struggle with this all the time. I feel like pop music, I listen to it sometimes and I'm like, oh my God, I just don't, this is not good, but it has millions of plays. Like it's nonstop. I feel like I know the answer, but like people are genuinely enjoying that music, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's both actually. It's like the thing is, like somewhere along the way, people realize that if you want your song to be remembered, you need repetition. Like people will remember your songs. You repeat the lines, you repeat melodies, whatever, and like
easily repeatable.
And like we just went way too far down the rabbit hole, like way too far.
Yeah.
And like it's great for dancing or like something I love to do is like cover some like sentimentality or melancholy or like darkness with that like that like manic positivity kind of that kind of goes hand in hand with that. But it's also like the music industry right at this current moment is like the most fucked it's ever been.
Oh man.
And like it's people don't have like a ton of agency in terms of like what they hear. You have to like actively make a point of finding stuff that's different from what you hear, unless like because we get fed the same stuff. Yeah. The same stuff by Spotify algorithms, and we get fed the same stuff by the radio or whatever, however we're listening. So you have to like, and that's like why a part of what I love about like the Project Feel extended network is it like helps me connect on like the ground level to independent to musicians doing different shit, like even outside of Project Feel.
People who feel real.
People authentic. Yeah. And I think there are some artists now who are, of course, forever there have been artists that have been like on the counterculture, but there are artists now who I think have been like, for the first time in years, I've been hearing pop music that I would call pop music, but it's different and it's like cool. And I'm like, yo.
And that's beautiful. Yeah. That's beautiful. I would love to be into pop music. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, dude. I mean, the one for me who like really reinvigorated my like love of pop music like recently is Deza.
I haven't heard of this person.
I think she's still independent. She has like, I don't know, like 3,300 followers, something like that. She's nice. Like mid, but she is just so dope. And she was living in like Sweden for a while. I don't know if that had like any influence on her music and stuff.
Maybe.
But she like, her melodies are like so unique and crazy, and like the sounds she used. I'm like a big fan of people using like their voice as instruments. I think it's beautiful. A big reason why
Franco does that pretty well.
Yeah, Franco's great at it. Brandon is too. I think it's a big reason why like Kanye.
Oh
is
man,
so
dude, that's his like that's like the thing, dude. That's the thing. Yeah.
But she takes it to a whole different level, and like all these exciting dissonances and crazy harmonies and stuff, and like her lyrics are insightful. I don't know. It's just.
I would love to hear that.
Yeah, and like I like she. She kind of dissed me once, and I still love her.
Oh my god, no way.
Like not, it was like a subtweet type
thing. Okay.
It was like
you got beef?
I hit her. Well, I hit her up.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yo, I love your music. You're so dope." And she's like, "Oh, thank you so much." I was like, "We should write together sometime." Yeah. Never responded. She puts out a video like maybe a week later or some shit, and it was like a TikTok, and it was like, when people tell me they love my music, and it was like, woo. It's like when they're like, let's write together. I was like, yo, this isn't
man,
and I was like,
tough.
I was butthurt for a minute, but then I was just like, honestly, like I like her music too much to hold this against her.
Yeah, I guess. That would make me really. I'm not gonna lie, that would like turn me off a little bit to the music too. I don't know. Maybe not, but I don't know. I guess it depends. It just feels so like.
I was definitely bummed, but I was like, I don't know. I was like, I'm not following her for her. I'm following her for the music.
True.
Like,
okay.
The music I rock with hard.
Yeah.
I like hard enough that I'm still out here shouting it out like Deza.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's really cool. I mean, it's definitely important to not let the music be too like it can't be like solely attached to the individual at all times. Like that's why we still listen to certain types of music or certain people's music. But that's interesting. How do you feel? I mean, a collaboration is pretty important, like as you said before as well. How do you feel about when people reach out to you, like to write or to make music, how do you usually respond to it?
That's interesting. It's like, I mean, I'm never like, nah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll be like, yeah, sometime.
Yeah.
When I'm like, no, like I don't really want to like write with this person, but like I usually stay open to it. They just have to make like a big effort.
Like an effort,
unless
genuine
I'm
effort.
like really. There are some artists that I've like started to write with a few times, and who I know like shit's gonna come out with us. I'm gonna write some shit with Taylor Tote like at some point. She's like someone I rock with and have for like years and years since I knew those other guys, Leo and Matt.
Nice.
And like I mean, Franco and I are always talking about beyond the guitar solo I played on New Era, doing a collab,
which was sick.
They're like, I mean, it's really just like, if I don't really want to write with them, I just like won't make it happen.
Yeah, for sure.
That's all.
Makes sense.
I'm never gonna be like rude to someone or like.
No, of course not. Yeah, and I mean, I feel like it kind of naturally happens too. Like if you don't want to write with someone, probably not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Because even when you want to write with someone, it doesn't happen sometimes. So like totally. It's not hard to be to pick and choose.
I feel like either I have to already like know like the person a lot and like be friends with them and feel close with them, comfortable with them to write with them, or I have to like their music enough that I'm willing to like take the time. Like if I write with someone who's like a stranger to me, I need at least an hour of just like talking to them.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
I can't just jump into it and be like, all right, let's do this.
You don't know them.
Yeah.
It's
exactly.
really it's kind of awkward.
Yeah.
Have
to form
which is
a
interesting.
rapport and like
for
establish
sure.
like how the writing is going to go down. Sometimes one person leads, sometimes the other person does. I just like need to know that I'm in like one. I know a little bit about this person. I know how they handle criticism. I know how like what's going on in their life.
Exactly, or what their intentions are too are very important as well.
Because I don't want to write a song where it's just like us yes manning each other. Like I want to write a song where I'm able to be like, yo, I rock with this part, but like nah, let's switch up this.
Yeah, exactly. Those songs usually suck when you're just like, oh, that was great.
Yeah,
leave it. you know. And I've seen people who are pretty like on top of like that vibe where like I remember going to a studio and a friend of ours invited us to the studio it was a beautiful studio. It was like one of those high-end ones, and he just wanted to work with someone or somebody wanted to work with him, and he was just like, come along and record some video for us if you don't mind. And we were like, yeah, of course, just to be in the studio is pretty cool. And I just remember seeing them like go off of each other, and it was like they had the rapport. They walked in, they knew what they knew what they were about music wise, and they just sat down and it was like an hour or two, and they were just vibing the whole time, and it was just like music, and it was beautiful to see, because that was like a look into what you kind of have to be able to do in the industry. Because if somebody asks you to pull up, they're probably not gonna want to waste time. If they're like, yo, come to the studio today, we want you to be on this track, we got this thing, just come through and drop something. It's like you got to be in, and you probably got to be out pretty soon afterwards. Because they're working. You know what I'm saying? It's not just like hang out, unless they're explicitly like, hey, just come through the vibe, just chill, like we're just hanging out, don't worry about if something happens, it happens.
And I also feel like it's very different with most genres from hip hop.
Yeah.
Because like hip hop, I feel like you can really be like, yo, come through, write a verse, spit it,
Yeah.
But like most other genres, it's like
true.
Okay, well, like you do your own thing, but like melodically, harmonically, all this stuff, like we have to discuss like how it's,
yeah, exactly. It can't just be like that makes sense too. I guess that's my perspective, is like that hip hop kind of like, that's generally what I'm used to seeing, or what I'm used to like trying to go for. What's the most, because we're talking a lot about the industry right now, what's the most surprising thing about the industry that you've been able to see? It's a bit of a weird question, but
yeah, that's an interesting. I would say that like almost no one is making a living. like and not just like, okay, like there are so many people trying to do this. It's like there are people who you think are making a living who aren't,
they're not,
who have like 100,000
they got the
followers.
clout. Yeah, they have the IG clout and the YouTube
and like again, like mass streams, and they're like like doing Instagram ads, so
making like 1K a month or something.
Like they like now especially, you have to be on the technical side of things to make money. You have to be like a producer, or like
to be in tune.
If you're a songwriter, you have to be a synced songwriter, you know, like getting your stuff all in TV and film and stuff like that. Streams are not going to do it, and they're not going to offset recording costs. Live playing can, if you get like a really
good
big
gigs.
Tour, a lot of that.
You have to get pretty lucky.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, like when you're playing on a small scale and you're gigging, it's like it depends how it works. If you're playing with the band and everyone's offsetting all the costs, that's one thing. But like for me, like I'm a solo artist, I bring in members, so I pay the people I play with. I pay for the rehearsal studios. If we have 3 rehearsals and they're 2 hours each, that could be like, you know, like at like $300 more. And then like if I'm paying each player, and I play with 6 players, and I pay them, you know, sometimes like $100 each.
Man, that's a good amount.
I'm like $900 in the hole before the gig started.
Man,
I play a really good gig. I get like, you know, 80 people there. I'm making like a few $100s. So it's like you have to really figure out how to minimize costs. You have to have your space to record in. You have to have people who rock with you and are going to like take a cut of like the profits.
Exactly.
Or like whatever. And there's like just like so many moving parts.
You got to be willing to make sacrifices, but you also have to have people around you that are also willing to make sacrifices.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what makes things work.
Yeah.
For
people
now,
like rock with you for
exactly.
real.
Yeah. People that want to see you succeed. Yeah.
And like songwriters get treated like absolute garbage.
Oh, dude.
Especially these days, like
1,000%.
The rates that songwriters get paid have gone down and down and down.
Yeah.
And like you go into like debt with a label if you're working with a label to like record a demo, and then you don't see any money until they recoup everything or whatever.
Yeah. And that's so tough. Man.
Yeah. And like they're paying, like there was the MMA, the Music Modernization Act, was passed like a couple years ago to like fix the way that songwriters are paid and get them a little more money. And it was like immediately, like it passed after so much, and it was immediately appealed by Spotify.
Jesus Christ! What?
Yeah, I think it was Spotify and Amazon Music, maybe. It was like two streaming platforms that are like historically not great with
their artists. Yeah. That's tough because there's also like, oh man, that's so rough. There's a lot of producer love going around right now too. Like I feel like a lot of producers are getting spotlights now. There's more conversations going on around them, and they're a little more like valued, I guess, in the industry now, or they're getting to that point.
Definitely.
And they should probably start sharing the love with more than just the because there's a lot of sections of the music industry. There are a lot of parts of the music industry that don't get any love.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that it's great that we're seeing some kind of focus to some of those people.
Yeah.
But like it's just so rough because those are some of the, like, everybody contributes pretty equally in a lot of cases. Like sometimes people get songwriting credits for coming in and writing, just a few lines, but there are people that genuinely write all of these songs. You know what I'm saying? There are certain sets of people that just literally write everything. Everything you hear is written by someone else. And then the artist goes on an interview and they're like, oh yeah, I wrote this song when I was doing this in that place. And it's total bullshit. And they didn't even write the song. They bought it.
The room. Yeah. But the flip side of that is that there are some producers and like, when I'm talking about producer, like right now, I'm talking about like holistically. I could be talking about like sound design producer, a mix engineer, a master engineer. But there are some who like are indispensable and like have massive there's this one guy, we were talking about pop music before. There's this one guy, Serban Ganea. Who's like, you've never heard of Serban Ganea, right? But like, look up Serban Ganea, and you'll realize that the genre pop music is Serban Ganea. I mean, this man has thousands of credits to his name, and it's every like top hit in the past like 10 years was produced by. I think he's the mix engineer, but like everything is mixed by Serban Ganea, and I realized it's like that's part of what the whole pop industry thing is like if your sound isn't Serban Ganea, then it's like, is it really like pop? You know?
Yeah. It's just so funny to think about. That's like, wow, that's pretty wild, man. And that's something that I guess people don't really. That's insight that a lot of people don't have.
Yeah.
Especially just normal consumers of music. So yeah, that's something I guess everybody should pay more attention to, I guess.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about gigging, performing live and stuff. I love performing live. I've said it so many times. Yeah. It's one of my favorite things to do. How important is it for you to be able to like actually perform the music that you create?
So, I mean, super important. I get over recording a mix of something that I've made so quickly, and like there's so much life left to get out of it with live performance. I can transform it. I like to play my songs differently live than recording,
which I love.
And also like I often it's very common to like release an album and then tour it. I like to tour it and then release it and like work out the kinks. Like I mean, some of the songs that I'm still releasing, I've played 1,000,000 times.
Yeah. I love that about your performances because I feel like I hear something new every time, and I'm like, that's great. I want to see that. I want to hear that on Spotify. You know what I'm saying?
And it's like, there's so much to get out of it. I have a song. It was one of the first songs I released. It's called "Shut Up," and it's like a deep cut, a Leifer deep cut. It's like it was my experimental track on the first EP. I wanted to do something weird sounding and funky, and it's just that in recording, but like live, it's an absolute banger. Like live, I play it with a drop and shit.
Yeah,
like,
that's so sick.
Like it's the one where I pass around solos to everyone in the band and introduce the band and stuff. I used to open with it a lot.
That's sick.
I love that song, and like I love it way more live than I do recorded. The recording is cool, but it's like Pink Floyd trippy. Like you could hear like bong sounds in the background. Like it's like it's like weird.
It's a for live kind of song. Yeah. It's awesome. Hulu TV is one of my favorite songs to see live. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. I love that track, dude.
Yeah, that's right in my sweet spot vocally, and like also the guitar solos and stuff.
So it's a sick 2018 bop right there, bro.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're getting towards the end of the podcast. Cool. Towards the end, we like to one thing that as a patron you can take advantage of is asking the artist questions, asking the person that's on the show questions. So we have a few questions for you from our patrons. So the first question is, what is the best song you've ever written, and why do you think it's the best? That's like choosing your babies.
But I think I know right off the bat.
Yeah. Sick.
The song is called "When the Walls Fall."
Ooh, okay.
And it's the most effective song I've ever written, where the music and the lyrics come together, and like anyone who has ever had a panic attack will listen to this song and be like, "Oh yeah,
wow,
yeah,
that's crazy."
Like that's "When the Walls Fall." It's like, for me, was like I wrote that song when I was like really at like my lowest. I was in college and I was having like daily panic attacks. Jesus. I was like I had too much going on, but I also just had like stuff in my personal life that was going on, and I was like I would miss like a week of like school. I was just like struggling. Wow. and that song was one of the songs for me that like needed to come out. Yeah. And it's been my favorite song I've ever written since, because like there are like real moments in it. I took like feelings that are universal and like showed them with like real personal moments that happened to me. It's like like if you ever, there's a line in the second verse that's like and if you're ever feeling stuck in the between, too shy to talk but afraid to go unseen, I know the thoughts and they can often get ugly. We can talk about it any day. And I brought into it that so element beautiful. of like
Oof,
of like I wanted to write a song for people that was for me, but also for people who were going through what I was going through, to say like, yo, I got you, you got me. And so that's the whole song is, you can count on me, I'll be with you when the walls fall down, hold my hand and breathe, That's
so beautiful, man. That's awesome. Yeah, that's incredible. I love that. Well, how did you get past that moment? Because you said panic. That sounds like so overwhelming, man. That sounds like a...
Yeah, I mean, I still have panic attacks sometimes. I've gotten better at like controlling them. Something I learned works for me from my psychiatrist is counting my pulse. He taught me how to like find it right next to that bone in your wrist, and if I focus on it and I count it and I, do box breathing where I breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, exhale for 4, leave it out for 4 seconds. Like usually I can establish enough
box breathing
composure to like at least not be like visibly having a panic attack.
Wow.
But I think like I was fortunate to have like people who cared about me and didn't like and understood what I needed. Yeah. Which like is hard sometimes, especially with someone who has like a lot of anxiety, panic attacks. Something for me is like I have like sensory overloads where if I'm having a panic attack and you start talking to me, I'll get mad. Like, stop, because I need to focus on what's going on. I need to like calm down. I need to like be in my body. If someone's like talking to me, if I'm feeling things, hearing things, like just like stimuli. So I just had people who understood like what I needed and like weren't offended when I was just like, I need a minute. Like I'm gonna blow up if you don't leave me alone right now.
It's very important, man.
Yeah,
it's incredibly important. I'm glad to hear that you have, methods as well. So like ways to get to normalcy, ways to be healthy.
Yeah.
That's beautiful to hear too. Like I'm sure that people can take from that as well. The people that, because I know a lot of people that do have panic attacks. Yeah. Anxiety is a real thing, and like it's, man, life is very overwhelming sometimes, especially if you live in places like this. Like so much going on.
Right.
So it's great to hear that you've worked past it. Good amount. It's beautiful. Next question. Which song did you actually have the most trouble writing?
Like that's out?
Maybe. Yeah, I guess.
Song that I had the most trouble writing. Let me think of songs that are out. 747 came right out. Hulu TV also kind of came right out. Maybe of the ones that are out, maybe Complicated or Say Your Mind. For different reasons. Say Your Mind, I wrote the chorus of in like college.
Wow.
And people were like, yo, like I love that chorus. I love that chorus. And I was like, me too. But I like never like knew what it was about,
Yeah.
And then when Jackie and I started dating, I was like, oh, there's a story here. I know what this is. So that took years because like the lyrics didn't, and like the rest of it didn't come till way later.
Nice.
Like Complicated was tough to write.
This guy's just circling the block, bro. He's literally he's lost. Anyway,
after me.
Just circling the block. He's like, you told me I left here.
He just like stopped and he's like not even anywhere. But
it's wild.
Yeah, Complicated was hard for a totally different reason. Complicated was hard because it was an extremely vulnerable song, and like saying the words out loud was just like painful for me, and I was coming off of like a breakup that was my own fault, but like this was the thing. Tough. I broke up with someone and then I like kind of regretted it.
Oh man.
and then it was just like too late, I fucked up too much, and so it was like I was still in college, that person was still there, and I was performing that song. I was like just vulnerable in a way that was like really difficult, where like I sang in like a lot of people. I went to a small school. A lot of people knew exactly what I was talking about.
That's so wild.
And like it was just like,
oh man,
hard. And that's the bridge of that song. Like the chorus is like, baby, it's complicated. Some days I need you at night to hold me close to the light, because I was so ambivalent about this relationship. And then the final chorus is, some days you need me at night to hold you close to the light. Baby, it's complicated. Nowadays you push me away. Don't want to see me today. And then in the end of the bridge, it's like going through like the story. And the last line of it is like, now you don't want me. It haunts me. Baby, it's complicated. And that line, every time I get to it still, I like have to like not cry. I'm like, don't cry.
And it's such a powerful song too, like the way you say complicated, the way you say like the way you sing that part is it almost kind of demands a wailing cry.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah, exactly.
It's just great. I love it. Thank you for that vulnerability, man. Really do appreciate it. Another question. I know in the past we've talked about your passion for songwriting. Do you have any insight into songwriting industry you could share? Like, I feel like songwriters don't get enough exposure in cloud. That's like literally what we talked about. But I guess, like, do you have insights that you could share about the songwriting industry at all?
Yeah, I mean, songwriters are some of the hardest working people in the industry.
Yeah.
And there aren't a ton. These days, it's kind of hard to break into.
Yeah.
Because a lot of artists want to be 360 these days. They want to write all their music. They want to, which like, and there are more and more people who are capable of it too.
They want to dance and sing.
Right,
they want to tour their own. They want to be completely independent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there are more and more people who are able to do that. But there are. It's its own skill, and there are like some people who are like just true, you know, masters of their craft. And I think something that people aren't aware of is like how we talked about a little bit about how like when you're a songwriter and you have a publishing deal, like you get funded to create the demos and like and record these songs, but if you don't record a hit, then you're like kind of in debt because you're given this money to make the demo as a loan. So it's like
that's so trash.
A lot of songwriters just like go into debt and like they have a hit and then they like get this deal and then they don't have another hit and they're just like in debt to the record label, which is crazy.
So terrible.
And
that's so
and they're asked if you want to make a lot of money as a songwriter, like I said, you have to recoup what you spent. So it's like you have to write hits.
Yeah.
And if you want to write hits, there are only so many genres you can really write in. And when you're writing in genres that are really popular, pop music, hip hop, things like that, it's the flavor of the week. It's this this is what people are writing about this week. I literally mean this week, right? So you could be writing amazing songs, but it's just like out of time, out of sync with what the trends are.
It's like we're past that.
What's going on? And it's just like
or you're either past that or they're not there yet.
Right.
And then it's like you hear a song in the future and you're like, that's literally my song.
And there are like a handful of people. It's mostly, you know, songwriting for a long time. Now it's starting to change finally, but it's been like a boys club for a long time, kind of.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And now there are some massive pop songwriters. You know, I mean, Julia Michaels, Teddy Geiger,
Julia Michaels is great.
Who are just like, you know, what's her face? Capital letters. Haley Steinfeld. You know, Sarah Bareilles.
Haley Steinfeld.
There are a ton who really Esther Dean. Oh. Esther Dean is the fucking bomb. Who are really like changing up the dynamic and like on the more independent level, a friend of mine is like starting to blow up as a pop musician. Her name's Rachel Bachner, and
that's awesome.
And she gives mad love.
Oh, is she the one that was at Safe and Sounds?
Yeah,
nice.
She's so dope. And,
that's awesome.
And she's you know, I mean, we were friends in high school, and she's been dating my best friend for 8 years. So.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's awesome.
But she gives mad love to her team, which I respect a lot. Sasha Ballantyne and Anique Blaze and Tiger Darrow, all sick, like on the indie level songwriters. But yeah, I would just say that like, as far as insights into the industry, it's like so much about timing and chance, and it's grueling, and it's like you have to really take a shitload of time to master your craft, and like it's hard to be able to afford that because sometimes it doesn't work out. You know?
It really doesn't.
Yeah,
man, that's so wild. It feels like a weird, messed up world in that music industry, but it's like, man, it needs a lot of reform.
I think it was Zendaya, or I forget who was saying, they were like, someone that was being asked about the music industry, who is also an actor, and they were like, I thought Hollywood was fucked up. The music industry is so fucked up.
It's so funny. Next question. What's the first song you remember hearing that where the writing just completely like blew you away? Like it was like otherworldly writing. I'm sure there are a ton of them, but like what's one that's you
first, like early, gotta be gotta be probably a James Taylor song or a John Mayer song. I think maybe like definitely a James Taylor song actually for me. There are like lines I think of that stand out from my youth. There's an album of James Taylor's that's just Greatest Hits Volume 2.
You gotta love those. You gotta love those.
Deep cut. No.
Volume 2.
But every song on that, The Secret of Life, You Got a Friend, so many of those definitely hit me hard. I remember a few John Mayer ones. There's a line, I called because I just need to feel you on the line.
Ugh.
Pause, don't hang up this time.
Oh man.
Yeah, that gets me every time.
Those words.
Yeah.
People are so good at words, man. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's so wild.
Like as a whole song.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know if this was the first, but one of, but I'll give two. Here, these are I'll give three. These are the three songs that most stand out to me as like having emotional impact on me. I Can't Make You Love Me by Bonnie Raitt. I forget what I was gonna say. The second one is The Circle Game by Joni Mitchell. Listen to that song; it'll make you cry, and it's so nostalgic, and it's like the best written. It's like the best written song of all time. And
let's go.
I mean, a million Sarah Bareilles songs, but
yes,
gotta be Basket Case for me.
That's a beautiful song.
Yeah.
So many good ones, man.
Yeah.
So many well-written songs out there, which is a beautiful thing. Cool. Last two, because we're running out of time. Last two real quick. Where do you find inspiration when you have writers or a creative block? Where do you go to find that?
I try other media or other art, not music a lot of the time. If I'm doing music, I'll go back to some of my favorites of the classics, or I will listen to like independent artists, my friends, stuff like that. But a lot of the time I get it from other media. I try to transfer media.
Nice. That's also, I feel like you should do that. I feel like that's very, very important to consume other forms as whenever you do have those blocks, because it really pushes you past your box.
Totally.
Another question, last question. What was the title and meaning behind your very first song?
Like ever?
I feel like that's pretty...
I mean, the first song I ever wrote was like I was like a kid, but it was called Daydreamer, and it was like all about how I'm always just like dreaming and like spaced out, and it's like so many weird lines in it, but it was just like how I was like zoned out a lot of the time, and like a romantic. And then the first like song that I ever like actually played for people was The Opposite of Love, and this one's more poignant. It's an Edie Wyse quote, which is that hate is not the opposite of love, indifference is. And that song was all about being in a relationship where like I didn't know it yet, but the other person was like kind of over it and didn't want to break up with me, so they just like ignored me for like a long extended period of time, and it was like brutal.
That's terrible. I've experienced that as well.
Yeah.
I hate it. Thank you for sharing that vulnerability as well. I really do appreciate it. So, those are all the questions.
Nice.
And that's the end of the episode. Thank you so much again, Leifer, for being here.
Yes, sir.
I really do appreciate it. It's always a deep pleasure being able to speak with you.
Thank you for having me.
We don't get this time too often.
Yeah.
So to have a conversation with you is really beautiful. I'm sure everybody at home also really appreciates you being here. To end it off, go ahead and let us know what you're up to next, what's going on. Stream Vacancy. But let us know what's going on next. And then also, if you have any pieces of wisdom that you've learned recently, things that you want to impart to the people.
Yeah, okay. So I got, Vacancy just came out. Stream that. Follow me on Spotify. Save it. Share it with your friends.
Yep.
And I'm releasing the rest of the album in February.
Ooh, let's go.
Yeah, so let's go. That's ahead from where we came, which is a reference to that Joni Mitchell song, The Circle Game.
There you go. Ahead from where we came.
And I would say, I don't know if this is like this is just like me, where I'm at, what I'm about. I want to tell the people what I'm about. And you're talking a lot about like, you know, being vulnerable on the podcast and stuff. I think something that's been important for me lately, what I've been trying to put forward is, you know, leading with love and vulnerability, and not being afraid to like be a human being, and like all that means, like have trauma and not be afraid to talk about it. Have like really the pleasure for me as a person is sharing all of who I am, and getting, you know, learning about other people and who they are, and not just the facade, not just what wants to be seen, but just like really sharing all of me. I think that's what life's about. So
beautiful.
Share yourself.
Woo!